Universal Disclosure Podcast proudly welcomes Mr. Samuel Chong.
But then the book mentioned about specific facts, explaining why some people believe that Jesus went to India and why there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan. They had a disinfection process. What they did was that they used yellow light and blue light to disinfect him. And it turns out Harvard Medical School had a study done on certain wavelengths of blue light, proving that blue light has antibacterial, antiviral effects.
Or in the book, and you were able to confirm the date of the birth of the Christ. Can you let us know what was that date?
Jesus was indeed born out of Virgin Mary from the embryo implanted by the ETs to the uterus of Virgin Mary. And then the young Jesus was highly spiritual and highly intelligent, having a profound conversation with the teachers of the temple, but he could not perform miracles. I mentioned about the other 19% electrons that will remain in nature. That's actually what some people would call ghosts. Journalists are dangerous because they create sensational news that are bad for the psyche of the people, bad for the spiritual development, because they tend to report the negative news, the bad news, and kind of make people feel depressed. And they don't report accurately either. As you know, fake news is a big thing here in the US. And the physicist was told that even though Einstein laid the 3 fundamental principles of modern physics, he made a small mistake. So that's why we believe that we cannot cross the light barrier. We cannot go at the speed faster than the speed of light.
The following program is presented for general information, education and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be advice of any kind. The content, views, thoughts and opinions expressed in this program are those of the individuals involved. The use of information on this program is at the user's own discretion.
Reverend Stu, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Another day in paradise down here in Melbourne, Australia. We got the spring happening. And I've really enjoyed this season we've been working on too, Mike. I meant to say to you, this is we're nearing the end of season 2. And I've been loving the information we've been sharing and just seeing where it leads us.
I have as well. And it does kind of feel like we're at a natural ending point for our second season here. The question is, where do we go from here?
Well, I'm impressed by the fact that people are reaching out to us to have a discussion with us. So today's guest is one of those people, and I'd like to see us go even further in that direction next year.
I think that's a great idea. Today we're going to be talking with Samuel Chong, who did reach out to us, and we'll get into that in a second. But I love it when people reach out. It's such a humbling feeling, really, to know that there's folks out there who are listening, because it's almost like a one-way street here where you and I are talking and we're talking with people from all over the world, and these conversations are great, but we have zero idea what the planet Earth thinks of us, and all we can do is make assumptions, right? So it's really cool that when folks reach out to join our conversation.
Well, I also love that our previous conversations are there for people to listen to and watch. And I hear other researchers mention those researchers and experiences, and I wonder sometimes if people subsequently check out our videos. Now, I've got reason to think that's true because we'll suddenly get a spike in a particular interview or video.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting how that works. I think some of it might have to do with the news cycles, and other times it's just somebody goes on a different podcast and then people start searching them out and then they find out. I mean, this is it's kind of I'll just say it out loud, a mind effort for me here, that we do all this, because we are not pigeonholed, nor will we ever be, in terms of we don't just talk about one tiny little specific thing, and we don't pump out videos every day because we quite frankly don't have the time for that. But I like that that we take the whole gamut here. So yeah, I think we should take a little time and enjoy for you, the springtime, and for me, the fall time, and going into our holiday seasons here, as it were, and reconvene perhaps in 2026 with, folks out there. Reach on out to us, join this conversation, and we'll see how all that goes, right? I mean,
I really like that idea, Mike, because that gives us time to start working on the new shows, the new season. This is the time to reach out to us then if you're interested in being on our show.
Absolutely. And we said it before, perhaps right from the start. What this really is, folks, this is an individual journey. And that's why we've done this the way that we have. So we are now inviting pretty much anyone out there. We want to hear from regular, everyday folks. And you know what, Stuart? I don't know why I haven't done this before, but maybe I'll start sharing some of my own case investigations that I've done here in the SoCal area.
Ah, that's super cool. Now, do you mean anonymously or do you mean having the particular experiencer come on the show?
It will be probably mostly anonymously. I would potentially give folks the option if they wanted to. But again, for the most part, when people report to MUFON, they're not doing it so they can get on a podcast or a TV show or anything. They just want answers for themselves. And they also want to put the information in the database. So probably 95% of the time, or maybe 100% of the time, it'll just be me going over the case in an anonymous way without revealing anyone's identities. But I do have some pretty awesome videos or artwork, photos and things like that to show. And it dawned on me the other day, actually. I'm one of like 600 or 700 people in the world who investigate for MUFON. But for the cases that I've investigated, if I don't share them, no one's ever going to freaking hear about them. Like, that
All right.
blew my mind.
Well, I'm definitely interested in that because I'm very curious about the cases. And if you can show us some maybe videos and data points you collected, without revealing the experiencer's name, I'd be very up for that. Very interested.
Yeah, so perhaps that's what we'll think about starting out next year, in addition to the call to join our conversation as well, if you so desire.
All right, that's wonderful. So who do we have as a guest on the show today, Mike?
Samuel Chong is a motivational keynote speaker on wellness, resilience and mindset, leadership and positive change, health and well-being, spirituality and near-death experiences, extraterrestrials, ancient mysteries, and esoteric knowledge. A lawyer in California and a certified court interpreter and Chinese translator, Samuel Chong visited Michel Desmarquet, the author of the Thiaoouba Prophecy, both in 2016 and 2018, and he was instrumental in arranging for the Chinese publication of Desmarquet's book, which has been a bestseller in both China and Taiwan, a rare phenomenon. He also translated the book 334 Lies, the revelation of H.M.V. Stahl, an autobiography of the High Master of the chair of a secret society that was started in Germany. Today, he dedicates his efforts in promoting the messages in these books in order to give people hope and to help promote a better world. Graduated from UC Berkeley with a BA in Economics, Universidad Carlos III de Madrid with an MA in Financial Analysis, and Northwestern California University School of Law with a JD, he currently resides in Los Angeles, California.
Wow, he's a capable man. I'm very interested already.
Yes, so I wasn't aware till recently that the Asian population is very interested in this topic. And they seem to also be potentially a little ahead of us here in that they've been interested in the esoteric and spiritual nature of this topic for quite some time.
Okay, then one of my questions is definitely how they're viewing this. Is there some sort of cultural or spiritual lens they're viewing this through? I'm definitely interested in this. You got me interested.
Yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about I was given a little preview of the book. And I've gotten about maybe halfway through it, so I don't know 100%. I will say from the start, the beginning was a little off-putting for me. It's dark, and there was a little bit of violence, if you will, right at the start, which was a turnoff for me personally. So I don't know what to think about this yet. But as it continues, the story is about this person, this guy who sort of gets taken by aliens, for lack of a better term, and toured around to different worlds and such, which is fascinating. This conversation we're about to have is gonna be a stretch for me. Okay, I'm open to it, but I can understand potentially how people out there are gonna, oh my god, because it does sound very much science fiction. However, if you think about all the conversations we had with all the people, like, there's physical craft and there's non-physical things happening. At the end of the day, the conversation ultimately goes to stuff like this. Now we have no way to know that it's true, right? Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. but let's just give it a listen. And I just wanted to say though, for me personally, this story is wild. I don't know what to think of it. I really don't.
Wow, I was going to ask, are we jumping the shark here? But there's no real jumping the shark with this topic. It just gets more crazy, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And the more I explore it, the more I realize why whatever disclosure is, why it's not happening, right? It's because I'll just say it out loud, man. I'll just say it out loud because when you spend enough time on this, folks, on this topic, you realize multiple things. And here it is. I'm laying it on you. 1, you're not free, no matter where you are in the world. 2, we don't need any organized religion. 3, government is also a problem. So you take the basic cores of everything that we are as a human and you dissolve them. That's what happens when you when you research this topic enough and get far enough into it.
Wow. Okay, that was full on, Mike. I liked it.
So you heard it right here, folks. That's the answer. Deal with it.
Okay. I need to integrate that now, Mike.
We should probably take that out. I don't know. Maybe we'll leave it in. Anyways, Universal Disclosure Podcast proudly welcomes Mr. Samuel Chong. All right, Samuel, thank you so much for your time and joining us today. We're excited to talk to you. Thank you and welcome.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, our pleasure. And when you reached out, it was really interesting for me right from the start because you had talked about the Asian population being very interested in this topic, which it doesn't surprise me, but yet I wasn't really aware of it personally. And then it sounds like they are potentially very much interested in the spiritual, non-physical, esoteric nature that we talk about pretty much 100% on this channel.
Indeed, I mean, China, where I come from, people are very interested in the UFO UAP phenomenon. Not only that, they have a very deep history of practicing the energy works, like the Qigong and also some of the esoteric knowledge engraved in the Chinese traditional culture. If you study traditional Chinese medicine, it's actually related to the human energy fields that modern science has proven nowadays. So I think everything's connected. So this is my background. I was born in China, and I got to know the UFO when I was young from a magazine. So I think this is a very interesting topic for people to learn about in China. I mean, in the world as well.
Excellent. Yeah, we definitely agree. We've been talking to people literally all over the world ever since we started, and we enjoy that. We love it, and we're just doing our small part to bridge to get everyone together and have the conversation publicly because it's so important. And it was actually at this past year's MUFON Symposium in 2025 in Lexington, Kentucky. There was a woman there who gave, at the end of one of the presentations, she did a free Qigong lesson that I took part in. And I was so grateful for her because right from the start, I felt the energies, and she was giving us some moves to do. I've been meaning to get into that a little bit more in my side here because I definitely can tell that there's something to that.
Yes. I mean, if the ETs can come and visit us, they must know everything about us, and they must have advanced knowledge about the energy works, the human energy fields, auras, and also some of the mysteries of the world, like the paranormal events. And I think this is important for us to realize that if they can come and visit us, they must present us with specific evidence, specific verifiable facts, so that we can really verify and learn from them. I think we can see some of the ETs as our mentors. This is what was in my subconscious mind when I was looking for books written by ET contactees.
Okay. Now, in our intro, I did not say the title of the book because I didn't want to mispronounce it, so I'm leaving that up to you. But as I understand it, it was incredibly popular in China, and then you translated it to English. Is that right? And then
no, actually, it's originally written in French, and then Kay Smith translated the book into English, and then helped to bring it into China and Taiwan to get it published in both places.
Oh, so I mixed that up. You helped to translate it into Chinese.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for the clarification on that. I'm curious, what year did that come out? And I'm just trying to figure out, like, on in terms of our linear timeline, as it were, when that came out over in that area and such.
The abduction event occurred in 1987 in Australia. The book
Wow.
was written in 1991 and got it published in 1993. So it took a few years to get it published because no one was willing to publish this as a nonfiction. Everyone wanted to publish it as science fiction because it's so fantastical and so unbelievable, incredible to a lot of the publishers at that time.
Samuel, I'm in Australia. What state did this happen in? What state of our country?
It happened in Queensland. Exactly, the location is in Cairns, Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stuart, how far away is that from you?
That's
It's
quite a
actually
long way
pretty-
north.
When that happened, I was in China, in Beijing, China, but I learned about the book when I was in Los Angeles. I was looking online for books written by ET contactees. And by that time, I read so many books already, but a lot of the books were so just vague and have channeled information, and they didn't have a lot of facts for me to verify. But this book is so different, has so many facts that I was able to verify as I was reading the book.
Okay, so I'd be interested to know. Now, I was able to get through probably about half of it so far, and I did in that. Just so you know, in our intro, I expressed a little bit of skepticism on my part, where I just said, like, I don't know what to make of this. This is a wild. Even though we're talking about UFOs and ETs on this channel, I was just like, this is a little bit of a stretch even for me. So I'm encouraging people just to give it a listen. But with that said, what were you able to verify factually? Just maybe a couple of points, perhaps.
I mean, I hear you and I resonate with you when I was reading the book halfway through. I thought it was a science fiction because in my mind, it could be true. It could be just like the author's imagination. But then as I read into the chapter, Who is Christ? It actually answered all the questions I had about the Bible. I came to the US, I went to a church. I did not believe anything that the pastor said about the Bible, about what happened to Moses, Exodus, or Christ, or Jesus. I thought they were just too fantastical, too miraculous to be true. But then the book mentioned about specific facts, explaining why some people believe that Jesus went to India and why there's a tomb of Jesus in Shingo Village, Japan. That really shocked me. I immediately searched online, found really indeed there's a tomb of Jesus in Japan, that credible sources described it exactly as was written in the book. Remember, the book was published in 1993, before the age of the internet. The author, Michel Desmarquet, was a farmer. He didn't have a lot of education. He didn't know how to type on computers, and he never traveled to Japan. How could he have known that there's a tomb of Jesus in Japan? Most people nowadays don't know about it, but yet the book explains what happened and why people think that Jesus went to India, and why there's no record in the Bible about Jesus performing miracles before he began preaching. And who was Christ? The one who performed miracles, who died on the cross, and then resurrected 3 days after. And there are a lot of relations in the stories in the Bible. For example, if you think about it, who really parted the sea for Moses? Who really led Moses out of Egypt, like giving them manna to eat when they were wandering in the desert? Who really planted the embryo into the uterus of Virgin Mary? What is the Star of Bethlehem in the sky that I was able to verify with the astronomical records of China to pinpoint the exact date of the birth of Jesus and the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ? So Jesus and Christ are actually two different entities, two different people, according to this book. I know this is too probably far out to be true, but by a lot of people, But I think if you read into the book, there are a lot of other interesting facts that I was able to verify. For example, when the author entered into their spacecraft, they had a disinfection process. What they did was that they used yellow light and blue light to disinfect him. And it turns out Harvard Medical School had a study done on certain wavelengths of blue light, proving that blue light has antibacterial, antiviral effects. And also there are other facts such as Project Westford that the US government had in the 1960s, sending out hundreds of millions of copper needles into space, hoping to improve the telecommunication signals. And then the project actually failed, and the ETs in the book explained why that's the case is actually by their intervention. And also, there are other facts that really made a lot of sense to me, such as who really destroyed the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, why they did that. It's not just about sodomy, it's about how people treated the compassionate people at that time. If you read the Jewish stories or texts, you're going to learn that in the city Sodom and Gomorrah, and there's a girl who helped the poor by giving the poor food to eat. And then they punished the girl by putting her to death. And that actually made a lot of sense to me because I think the people in the two cities are so evil. There's no way for them to change their to mend their ways. So they have to destroy the two cities, because if you have malignant tumors in your body, like cancer tumors, you have to cut them out to prevent them from spreading. So this is what the ETs did. So from time to time, ETs intervened and helped us by kind of serving as our mentors. I think this is a very unique, very interesting book that really kind of shocked me.
Okay, I hope you have some time today because I've already got a lot of questions just from that little bit. And then I'll toss out just like a handful of questions and then maybe take a step back because I feel like Reverend Stu, this is more in your wheelhouse than mine. But when Samuel, when you said that you, or in the book, and you were able to confirm the date of the birth of the Christ, I think I maybe got to that point already, but it sounds like there's a lot more I need to get to in the book. But can you let us know what was that date?
Well, it's actually, I think, in 5 BC. Let me just give you the exact date for all the three major events that I actually wrote a research paper on that. It's actually, let me give you the date. The date is March 9th, 5 BC. It's based on the astronomical records of China. They actually saw a star in the sky for 70 days. That's actually the star of Bethlehem that actually matched the description of what the Chinese astronomers recorded. As you know, the Chinese emperors took great caution or precaution to the changes in the sky, especially at night, believing that there are kind of warnings to their actions or behaviors. So they also keep the very kind of detailed record, the astronomical records. So that actually matched the description of the Bible. The crucifixion of Christ is actually March 31st, AD 31, according to the Bible and historical records of China. And there are records in China that actually detailed what happened on that day. And also, you know, there's a time difference between the capital of China at that time and also Jerusalem. And if you take account into the time difference, the descriptions match exactly. The resurrection of Christ is April 3rd, AD 31, according to the astronomical records of China. So I can tell you that the descriptions match exactly between the Bible and the Chinese records. So that's amazing to me.
That is. So from what I am hearing, I grew up as a Roman Catholic, and I do still consider myself to be, but it sounds like we got Easter almost correct, but we're way off on Christmas. Reverend Stu, what do you think about that?
Well, there's a lot to talk about here. So there are what's referred to as some missing years of Jesus in the Bible, and I've heard these theories about him traveling to different parts of the world, which is a fascinating topic. It's in some of the apocryphal texts and also the Gnostic texts. There are certain fractal aspects here where the stars reflect what's happening on the ground, as above, so below. So I know what you're referring to about, say, the Star of Bethlehem. During the crucifixion, the sun apparently went dark for, I think it's 6 hours. So I understand exactly where you're heading here, and it's very interesting. You've got me definitely inspired to read this book. I really like this. Thank you.
Yes, and again, I can send you my article of research on this matter. And also, it kind of proves why people think that certain ways. I mean, in the early days, the Catholic Church had a lot of debates on Jesus, the identity of Jesus, whether he's a human or he's the Son of God, and also I think this book actually matches everything according to what I've researched. Specifically, the records of in China, and also the details in this book. I can share you a little bit about the second part, the second half of the book, specifically about Jesus and Christ. Jesus was indeed born out of Virgin Mary from the embryo implanted by the ETs to the uterus of Virgin Mary. And then the young Jesus was highly spiritual and highly intelligent, having a profound conversation with the teachers of the temple, but he could not perform miracles. The reason is that when someone is born this way, like the astral body goes into the embryo, the astral body has to pass through what the ancient Nagas would call the river of oblivion, forgetting everything that happened in the past and forgetting all the knowledge to perform miracles. So this is why Jesus couldn't perform miracles in his early age. And then he went to India and traveled through China and died in Japan. So this is why there's a tomb of Jesus in Japan. But Christ is a different entity, is someone who is able to perform miracles. They had to have someone who appeared to be like Jesus appear to the people in Israel, in the Middle East at that time, because people in the past, like people nowadays, they were highly skeptical. They wouldn't just believe the teachings of anyone unless someone could perform miracles. So Christ remembered all the knowledge to perform miracles so that people could really follow his teachings. And he knew what was going to happen. He was crucified and died on the cross. And then he resurrected 3 days after. This is very interesting because it actually follows the laws of nature. Because when a person dies, the astral body leaves the physical body. And then after 3 days, the astral body goes into the higher self. So this is why in Tibetan culture, the corpse of the dead are not to be touched for at least 3 days because they think that the cycle hasn't been completed yet. So this is why Christ resurrected after 3 days, just to show people that there's life after death and there's reincarnation. But for some reason, the concept of reincarnation was later removed from the Bible. But now there are a lot of scientific research verifying and also proving that there's a possibility of reincarnation. If you read the studies by Dr. Ian Stevenson, Dr. Michael Newton, Dr. Brian Weiss, and also some of the other researchers, you're going to see that there is indeed a lot of scientific facts on reincarnation. And we do go to heaven after we die if we strictly follow the teachings of Christ. But like people like us, we're all human beings. We make mistakes. So we have to go through different kind of cycles or go up the ladder. And then eventually we're going to reach heaven. But that's going to be after a few different reincarnations. Not immediately. So this actually explains why, like when I was reading the Bible, I had a question like, if Hitler, for example, presumably he really repented and believed in Christ, will he go to heaven or will he go to hell? And the answer is he will not go to heaven because he will go through what a lot of the people after going through the near-death experiences would call the life reveal process. He would reveal everything happened in his lifetime. He would feel the pains and the sufferings of the people he killed. And then he would have an evaluation on his own, like a judgment of his own. And then he's going to kind of feel very sorrowful and sorry for the people he killed. He's going to kind of want to feel the pains of the Jewish people he killed in his next lifetime. So they go through the different cycles of learning and relearning the spiritual lessons that one is supposed to learn. So it goes through a lot of different processes, as explained in this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy. So this is why I'm so into this book.
If I can just jump in here real quick, when you were talking about the 3-day period, which has come up in other conversations that we've had, it made me think about something, and I'm wondering what your take or position on this might be. In the Western culture, we have a tradition when somebody dies that they, unless they decide to be cremated or whatnot, they become embalmed, and that typically happens with almost immediately. I don't know what I don't think we wait 3 days, but and it's a pretty gruesome process, as it were. As I understand it, we sort of take out all the inside stuff and fill them with something that can preserve them, so we can look at the body and have our closure. Which personally, I do believe that's a wonderful thing to have that closure. But my question is, when we do that, and presumably we don't wait 3 days, how does that play into what you just talked about with the astral body leaving the physical body, and then the physical body, let's say, being messed with or something? Can you speak about that?
Yeah, sure. So what happens is that when the astral body leaves the physical body, the astral body first of all is made of electrons. So after 3 days, in 3 days' time, 81% of electrons will go to the higher self, and the other 19% will remain in nature until the person is reincarnated or the electrons are recycled by nature. So if you don't wait for 3 days, it's also fine if you don't wait for 3 days. It's just that the person's like the entire astral body is going to wander around in nature and see what we do, like the mornings or maybe some of the kind of the ceremonies we do, and then just kind of have feelings to some of the relatives that he felt or she felt close to. So this is why a lot of the people who just want to connect to their relatives who just passed will be able to do that more easily within the 3-day period of the passing than after 3 days. But after 3 days, you can go through different like mediums and also other psychics to do that. But also, I mentioned about the other 19% electrons that will remain in nature. That's actually what some people would call ghosts. Like because electrons have static forces, it will actually resemble the appearance of the person who just passed. Also because electrons have memories. So this is why they frequently haunt the places they loved or hated. And I know actually a person, Michael Corey, who lives in Pasadena near me, who actually visited my office and then communicated with a spirit or ghost in my office where I'm sitting here right now, which used to be a dental office. And then he told me everything that he was able to get from the ghost, and everything matched exactly to what I know about my office. So yeah, there are ghosts, and there are some people who can communicate with ghosts.
Wow, I definitely believe that. I've got a little story I might want to share. Actually, I wasn't planning on it, but a while back, I play piano, and anyone who tunes in here knows that Stuart and I are musicians. I don't do it really too much anymore, but I was gifted a piano that came from a nursing home. And shortly after, I didn't put this all together until a long time after the fact, but shortly after the piano was in my house and in my bedroom at the time, weird stuff started happening at night. And I went to see a psychic medium who then, long story short, we were allegedly able to help somebody transition and move on, as it were. And I do believe that it was the emotion of the piano itself that that person potentially attached themselves to. That's just one of my ghost stories. I got a bunch of them, but we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Sorry, I didn't mean to kill the conversation. This will be an edit point.
It's okay, Mike. How would you describe your spiritual orientation? And feel free to not answer that question if there's a privacy issue there, but I'm quite intrigued now after what you've been saying to us.
Well, to me, there's a God, a creator of everything, because we are the creations of the creator. And then God, the creator, not only created our human beings on Earth, but also extraterrestrials on other planets. It actually created the stars, the planets, animals and plants, extraterrestrials and people on Earth. So it's the creator of everything. So in the sense that there are different levels or different kind of categories of planets and different kinds of ETs as well. And there are ETs who are more advanced than us, and there are ETs who are kind of similar to us on different planets. And I know, like recently in the last few years, people have been focusing attention on the witnesses who testified in Congress of the U.S. about the retrievals of crashed UFOs or UAPs. And I think people are good to listen to their testimonies. But remember, the UAPs that they retrieved crashed on Earth, indicating that their technologies are not so advanced. So this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, is telling us the information related to the ETs whose spacecraft will never crash on Earth because they're so far advanced. And they have been guiding us throughout history. For example, they kind of led Moses helping the Hebrews out of Egypt. They destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. They contributed to the birth of Jesus and also the preachings of Christ. They kind of intervened from time to time, ending World War II much earlier than it would otherwise if the U.S. government hadn't dropped the 2 bombs in Japan. They actually helped U.S. scientists to develop the atomic bomb much earlier than the German scientists, even though the German scientists were far more advanced than the Americans in developing the bomb. I did some research. It's actually mentioned in the book too. Dr. Heisenberg of Germany was far more advanced than the American counterparts in developing and researching the atomic bomb. But for some strange reason, he made a very stupid mistake. And his report was read by Hitler. And Hitler believed, after reading his report, that Germany did not have enough natural resources to make the bomb. So that's why he gave up the plan. And that's why the American scientists were more made the bomb much earlier than Germany, than the Germans, ending the war much earlier than it would have been otherwise. So the ETs have been helping us from time to time. And some people would ask, what do you believe in? I believe that it's also mentioned in the book as well. When God created every one of us, it actually inserted a tiny portion of itself to each of our astral bodies. Like we are part of the Creator, and the Creator is part of us. So the Creator wants to experience what we experience, and we constantly send feedback or memories to the Creator through our astral bodies. So this is why I think we should be spiritual, but not necessarily follow a specific organized religion, because as the Bible says, the kingdom of God is within you. When we have challenges in life, we should look inside for answers. And we can communicate to God, the Creator, directly without necessarily going through intermediary agency, like a specific organized religion. But I do think people should read the Bible, especially the New Testaments of the Bible, and to the four Gospels specifically, and to follow the teachings of Christ. What really taught us by Christ is something that we should follow strictly, and to progress on a spiritual level at a much faster pace.
Thank you, Samuel. That was quite beautiful. Mike, you can see why disclosure discussions often discuss the end of religions or the damaging aspect of catastrophic disclosure. So, these are challenging subjects, Mike. What do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, in the intro, I think I may have said exactly that. And at the time, sometimes it's interesting that I said it before we even had this conversation. But I believe that that's correct. I don't think that we need organized religions. I agree with everything that Samuel just said. I mean, what I'd like to do though is how does this really all tie in together with the ETs, Samuel?
Well, I think the book Thiaoouba Prophecy is a modern version of the book of Enoch. Remember what happened to Enoch? He was taken by God or Thiaoouba or Jehovah, and then there's a book of Enoch. And when Michel Desmarquet, the author of Thiaoouba Prophecy, read the book of Enoch, someone gave the book to him after he came back from Thiaoouba, and he was astonished and shocked. He believed that Enoch was actually going to the same planet. He went to the same planet that Michel he did. So the two people went to the same place. And there are a lot of resemblance in the descriptions, such as the Crystal Palace in the book of Enoch, as in the book Thiaoouba Prophecy, the Michel Desmarquet described as a doko, which is kind of semi-transparent. I mean, it looks like a crystal from the outside, but if you go in, then everything becomes transparent. The planet Thiaoouba is a very beautiful planet. Everything is so perfect, just like a heaven or paradise. And the people there are so compassionate and loving, and they can perform all the miracles that's performed by Christ. They can levitate, they can communicate through telepathy, they can heal all the different diseases you can imagine or think of. They can also perform a lot of magic. I mean, definitely people should read the book to know more details. And I think the significance is that after, I mean, by some accounts, 40 or 80 years after Enoch was taken away by Jehovah, by God, or the angels, Noah, his great grandson, was told to build an ark. So everyone knows what happens afterwards. So Michel Desmarquet was taken by the ETs, or by the Thiaoubans, by the Jehovah's, in 1987. And if you do the calculations, you're going to think like what's going to happen 40 to 80 years after. And are we going to have a period of time that we need to build an ark? Or can we mend our ways and to change the course of the future so that we don't necessarily have to have some kind of event that we have to have an ark ready for us? So I think the question is that what we need to do, and the book Thiaoouba Prophecy gives the answers. It actually warns us. It's not a book of prophecy, it's a book of warnings to the people on earth. The four dangers on earth are, by the order of importance: Number 1, money. Number 2, politicians. Number 3, journalists and drugs. Number 4, religions. So people have to rise up against the tyrannies in the world using nonviolent resistance so that we can change the world, change the future for the better. Now, if you really think about this, like, I don't know if you know that it really doesn't matter whether it's the Republicans or Democrats running the government. There's a group of people running everything behind the scenes. At least they kind of they remain in power. It really doesn't matter like who becomes the president in the U.S. or in the U.K. Or prime minister in the U.K. There's a group of people that is transnational or like there's no concept of countries or nations in their mind. It's just those kind of financiers, the people who run everything behind the scenes. They manipulate the politicians and for their benefit. And if you read the book, The Committee of 300 by Dr. John Coleman, you can get a general idea of how they do certain things. So a lot of people rely on the government to make the changes. We should really empower the mass at the grassroots level for changes to happen, for positive changes to happen. And also, if you look at history, great revolutions always come from the bottom. They start at the grassroots level. The revolutions in China and also in the US and elsewhere in the world, whenever there's a great change that will happen or has to happen, it comes from the people. So I think we should kind of advocate the people to take power in their hands using nonviolent resistance, just like what Gandhi did in India, what Dr. Martin Luther King preached in the US, and to make some changes. And a lot of people think that, oh, we don't have enough power to do that. But if you really think about it, we do have a lot of power. If we have a peaceful strike, we as a people, each one of us, will lose very little. But the power that is controlling us, the financiers, they're going to lose humongously because for each hour that we stop working for them, they lose hundreds of millions of dollars. They rely and they depend on our slave labor to profit themselves. So this is the power of the mass. And I can elaborate a little bit more, but I think you get the point.
I definitely do, and I wanted to just touch upon a couple things that you just said. The first one, I was just jotting down some notes while you were talking. The first one was one of the things that really struck me when I was starting to read this book was there was a picture of an egg-shaped craft, and you just referenced that as well. I think you called it like a dojo, perhaps, or something to that effect.
Are you talking about the living structure that they live in with the space?
Well, okay, so yeah, there's. I'm talking about. I think I'm talking about the spacecraft.
Okay, that's the spherical shape. Yes.
It's a what?
Round shape, like a ball, like a spherical.
Okay, so there was one right at the beginning of the book. There was an image of what looked like more like an egg. So I don't know if that was the house or
That's
potentially
it's
a house. Okay. So the reason that struck through is because Stuart and I recently interviewed a woman named Debbie Jordan Cobble, who is an experiencer who had physical evidence in her yard and a craft that was basically that same shape. So I thought that was a pretty interesting little thing. And then, Jake Barber, I don't know where he is now. He comes out of nowhere and with his egg-shaped craft, and then he goes back into the shadows, I guess. But it's just interesting that this book was put out so long ago, and Debbie's event took place. Oh gosh, I forget when. I think in the late '80s or early '80s. So anyway, as a UFO investigator, I found that to be interesting. When you talked about the four. The four dangers. I agree with all of them. I'm just kind of curious, and this is just more of a maybe a jokey kind of thing, but why is journalism and drugs lumped in together? I believe both of them are bad, right? But why do those get lumped in?
I guess it's because they're equally dangerous at the third level. I mean, number three, dangerous things. Journalists are dangerous because they create sensational news that are bad for the psyche of the people, bad for the spiritual development, because they tend to report the negative news, the bad news, and kind of make people feel depressed. And they don't report accurately either. As you know, fake news is a big thing here in the US. So that's the reason. But I do suggest people to read the good news. There's a website called the Good News Network. It actually helps people to be more compassionate. It reports on people helping each other, saving people's lives, and just be more loving and be more compassionate to your neighbors and to each other. So I think that's good because if you report on good news, people are going to follow. If you report on bad news, people are going to imitate the bad things that people do. So I think that's the reason why it's dangerous. And drugs, they mean hallucinogenic drugs. The drugs, according to them, they damage not only our physical body, but also our astral body. Because the astral body is made of electrons. If you have hallucination, then you're actually moving your astral body into a place where it is not supposed to be in. And then it actually interferes with the memories of the astral body. So that's why it will take a few reincarnations, a few generations for the astral body to be repaired to be to the original state of perfection. So that's why it's so dangerous.
Okay, I just want to interrupt you right there because we've had multiple conversations now that where DMT has come up in what I believe is microdoses. So I'm wondering what your opinion is on that. But also, there's a Canadian company I think called Mind Medicine that is working on psilocybin, microdosing psilocybin to help people with traumas and PTSD and things like that. I've never done these things myself. I'm not advocating that anyone do it, but I'm just curious what your take would be on, or what the take of the people who say this would be on the idea of the microdose as opposed to something that really like sets you out there, right? Like, does it still have the same effect, or?
Well, actually, the best way to heal someone like a trauma is through prayers or meditation. That will actually help you to heal much faster than relying on something kind of hallucinogenic or hallucinative. So I think the best way is to really use your prayer or meditation to go into your subconscious mind so that you can really use your automated healing process, your immune system, to heal everything that should be healed. Microdosing, I think, I try to validate and verify or improve whether hallucinogenic drugs have any damaging effects on the body or not. I ask a lot of aura readers, people who can see the human energy fields, like who can see the colors of auras. I always ask them, like, can you tell if someone uses hallucinogenic drugs versus someone who does not use it? And they always say yes, because the auras of the people who use drugs look muddier and more ugly, like they seem to be distorted and kind of bad in colors. So, so, and also there are some practitioners of meditation that will refuse people who use drugs to join them and to meditate because they think that the energy fields will cause some kind of disturbances or will affect negatively to the people who don't use drugs. So I think, I mean, people can do whatever they wish because we have free will, and you can use drugs as well. But I would remind them to do their own research. Ask people who can read auras and to see if the drugs cause any negative effects or not.
Okay. I mean, I was actually recently speaking privately with someone who might be listening to this conversation when it goes out, and I think that whether it's that person or anyone else should really take that to heart in terms of even if it is a microdose. And um, I mean, I don't really know too much about it, but what you're saying makes sense and it sort of feels right. So I think that's a great message to put out there. Um, to go back to one of the other things you said, yeah, in America here, as you probably know, we sometimes refer to the deep state or the dark state, and I've heard that most of my life. It wasn't until we started this channel that I really started to see that, like, wow, that's a thing. It exists because we have had resistance and censorship of sorts with some of the conversations that we put out there and things like that, and we see with the current administration who has recently, they were all gung ho. It seemed about we're going to give you all the UFO, like almost every president for the past since my lifetime. Yes, we're going to tell you about UFOs, but then they go silent. I'm like, what's that all about? But what I really wanted to get to is the grassroots nonviolent resistance. I mean, yeah, I do think we sort of get what you said, but can you go a little bit more into that in terms of potentially an example of how we might do that? Because right now there's multiple groups who are pushing for disclosure from the government, and I support them, but it seems like there's a lot of challenges. And how can the people of America or the people of the world really step up in a way that would propel that forward?
This is the reason I've been pushing and promoting this book as best as I can, because I think people need to have the knowledge to empower themselves so that they know how to respond to certain situations. It's not just about the US versus China or versus India or Japan. It has to be an international movement. People have to act together, because what we are against is not just Americans or Europeans. Is like in their mind, there's no kind of concept of country versus country. It's them versus us, and they kind of they can pick like a Chinese member, a member in China, a member in Japan to join them, so that they can get the best benefit out of everything. So this is why the people have to realize that it's not about the conflicts that we watch the news and to learn about. They're the conflicts created by them and to divide us. So divide and conquer is the tactic that they have used over the last few decades or for hundreds of years. And if you really want to know how they do this, who are the people behind everything, besides the book The Committee of 300 by Dr. John Coleman, there's another book that I translated from German into English titled 334 per thousand lies, LIES. That's the autobiography of the former highest degree chair of a secret society that was started in Germany that I later linked to the Illuminati. That book explains how that person, the author, became the leader of that organization from a college student in Germany, and how he accumulated psychic abilities to see the past and to predict the future. This actually explains why the Illuminati card game is so accurate in predicting the future events, like the 9/11 event, Princess Diana, COVID or the pandemic, and things like that, because they really have the ability to see certain events that may happen in the future. It also explains how they use a specific form of astrology and numerology to really predict the behaviors of certain people, how they influence people's minds, how they control the politicians and also business leaders. And they actually specifically mentioned that they created conflicts by, for example, supporting the KKK in the US at the same time supporting anti-racism movements. So they played both parts. But the book says that there's no use to have law enforcement people to arrest any of their members because they all have psychic abilities to project images to the minds of the policemen so that they can escape without any harm. The key is for people to know this is really happening and how it happens so that the people can act together collectively through a collective conscious mind to defeat what they're doing right now. So it actually tells straight to us that no matter how strong these psychic abilities that they have, they're afraid of the power of the people, the power of the mass. And you can read the book to get more specifics and also how they practice the esoteric knowledge that they learned to have the psychic abilities. It's a very powerful and dark book. It has a lot of descriptions of the rituals that they perform. So be careful, and only when you are ready can you read the book, because the book is very disturbing and kind of not for the faint of heart.
We've had a couple conversations about psychic abilities or psionic abilities or whatever word we're going to use today, to rebrand it, right? But we talked with Reverend David Perry about that. We talked with Kevin Can about that. And one of the two things I want to put out there, Samuel, to see what your thoughts are. The idea that, because Stuart and I openly talked about, we have both had out-of-body experiences, whether you call those astral projections or whatnot. So we know that that's real. But it came up like when you are traveling out of your body, as it were, it seems like it's possible for other people to see you. And then the second part of that question, is that true or not? The second part of that question is Kevin Can brought up the idea of when he was remote viewing, he sort of went into like a remote viewing trap where they set up like a trap, as it were, in order to be able to psychically track the person who goes to view that thing. Is there any truth to that? Either of those things that you're aware of?
Yeah, I think it's possible, and definitely I agree that there's remote viewing and there's out-of-body experience and there's astral travel. And the ETs in the book Thiaoouba Prophecy cannot see the astral body of the person who left the physical body. And this is the limitations of the ETs according to this book. But I don't know if other people can see the astral body or not. And I think maybe people who have psychic abilities will be able to do that. But it's very interesting that you mentioned about this, because some of the UFO ufologists are saying that they learned from the crashed UFOs or the ETs that they use their mind to control the UFO, the ETs, their spacecraft. And what I say is that, they also try to train like pilots to control the crashed ETs, the UFOs, or reverse engineer the spacecrafts. And they failed because the trained pilots are so mechanical in their mind that they always have a breakdown if they try to do that. And they find that young children are more easily trained in controlling or using their power of the mind to pilot the spacecraft. And actually in China, in India, there are experiments done on people, just try to see if they can develop their abilities to read people's mind or to astral travel, things like that. And they find that it's much easier to develop such skills among children than adults. And but I do think, go back to your question, yes, it's probably true what Kevin said or experienced, but the ETs in this book, they cannot see the astral body.
Okay, interesting.
Mike, the craft seems to be an amplifier of consciousness or intention. That's the way I'm viewing that. So if someone sits in the craft, connects with the machinery or the craft, it amplifies their intention. So your intention might be to, I want to go to this planet or this location. It seems to take you there. Now, I haven't experienced this, Mike, so I'm just going by the kind of mythos or mythology in this paradigm, but that's what it seems to do.
Well, it depends on the kinds of ETs that we are talking about. I mean, the spacecraft. It seems that the ETs that in which their spacecraft crashed were using their mind to pilot or control their spacecraft. But the ETs that, according to Michel Desmarquet, their spacecraft are not necessarily controlled solely by mind, because he actually saw a computer, like a screen at least, in which they showed pictures of the scenes of the planets that they visited, and also they communicated with their people in the intergalactic space stations. And I think there are different kinds of ETs. I always have this kind of motto in which we should learn from the best. We should learn from the masters. So by that, I mean we should learn from the ETs whose spacecraft will never crash on Earth. The ETs from Thiaoouba, the ETs who have been guiding us in the last few thousand years, who took Enoch away from us, and who actually had Christ to preach about spirituality and love to us. And the ETs whose spacecraft crashed is good to study, but I think people's attention should be on the more advanced, more elevated ETs who are more focused on the spiritual aspect of the knowledge that we should have.
I would like to toss out a couple things here, Samuel, just to get your take, but also for the sake of those who are listening. Forgive me, because it's going to be a little bit of a build-up here, but we had spoken with Timothy Hogan, who is the Grand Master of the Knights Templar. He was sort of our season 1 finale episode, as it were, and he was talking about sort of a mass remote viewing session they did with NASA in the 80s, and in exchange for their information, NASA told them everything that they knew at the time about UFOs. They talked about 5 different levels of craft, like level 1, level 5, etc. So that sort of seems to go in line with what you're saying about potentially different, for lack of a better term, species of alien or whatnot with different craft. But where I ultimately want to go with this sort of question is the idea of a crash, right? Because I don't know how much you've researched the topic about this, but I'm a nuts and bolts investigator primarily, right? And in the UFO community, as it were, or the UFO world, whatever you want to call it, there's 2 schools of thought. The first one is if we make them crash, we call it a gift, which I think is a false thing to do. But the other school of thought is they don't actually crash. They maybe look like they crash, but it is a legitimate offering to us to maybe help provoke, or not provoke, to help progress us with our evolutions and such. So I know that was a lot to lay on you, but what do you have to say about those things?
I think it's a real crash. It's not something that they really purposely crashed and to help us to progress. There are much better ways to help us to progress, such as on a more spiritual level. I mean, technologically wise, we discover what will be discovered in the future. For example, atom in the atomic bomb, and but we have to be spiritually advanced in order to be able to use the technologies so that we don't destroy ourselves in the future. So spiritual advancement has to be at the same level as technological advancement. So those are real crashes. And whether they crashed accidentally or we made them crash is a question. I think both happened. But either way, if they crash accidentally or if they crashed due to our actions, that indicates that their technologies are limited. The ETs in the book Thiaoouba Prophecy, if you read into the book, you're going to realize that their spacecraft will never crash on Earth, even if we want them to crash, because they're just so far advanced. They're just like college professors, and the ETs whose spacecraft that crashed are just like elementary school students, so the differences are so great. It's just like we are the more advanced ETs, and also kind of like a caveman is the less advanced ETs. It's just the differences are so great that they're not comparable. But we are all created by the same creator, for that matter. And when we progress spiritually and technologically enough, we can progress to a different level of planet. And then, have you ever wondered why, like in the Old Testament of the Bible, that people used to live like 800 years or 700 years, and gradually they kind of lost the ability to live longer? There's a reason for that. And I'm not going to give you the answer, but I'm going to pose some questions to you. Have you wondered why, like Jewish people, accounting for less than 0.3% of the world population, they account for 22% of Nobel Prize winners, and they are so good at everything that they do, like in business, in entertainment, and in everything that they enter into. Like, have you wondered why God or the Theobans, why they were the chosen people, why the Hebrews were the chosen people? Why God or Theobans, they chose the Jewish people, the Hebrews, and not any other races like the Chinese or Native Americans or Caucasians or blacks? Why that's the case? And this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, gives you the answer. It also tells you why, explains why the Jewish people are so kind of had such a difficult life on Earth. There were so many people are jealous of them and persecute them and things like that. So like, I have a question. I had a question when I was reading the Bible, like why the Jewish people, the Hebrews, were the chosen people. The answer I heard was that they followed the words or the instructions of God, and that's not a good answer to me. I mean, a lot of other people, the Gentiles, they also like later on, they also follow the teachings of the Lord, but they're not as successful as the Jewish people. Why that's the case? I mean, you have to read the book to understand why. And actually, we all came from different planets originally.
Okay, we're getting into some touchy subjects here, Mike, but I'll go carefully.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Have you read the Sumerian tablet account of some of this information?
I haven't. Oh, yes,
Not really, not entirely.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. There's also a bloodline thing here. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, people coming from different planets, because that's part of this whole Sumerian tablet, Rh negative blood type discussion. So have you gone down those pathways of exploration?
I mean, to tell the truth, people at the top who manipulate the financial system, they always talk about the bloodlines for one reason or another. However, as far as I know, like we originally came from different planets. For example, the blacks and the yellows came from a planet called Bacratini originally, and the ancestors of the Polynesians came from a planet called Arimo X3. They landed on the continent Lemuria, a continent that once existed in the Pacific Ocean. that suddenly sunk into the ocean about 14,500 years ago. And also the Caucasians came from a different planet and landed on Atlantis, a continent that used to exist in the Atlantic Ocean. And the Hebrews came from a different planet of a different level. So by law, universal law, there are different categories or different levels of planets, and the blacks and yellows, the Caucasians, the ancestors of Polynesians, all came from the same categories, the same category of planet originally, by laws of nature. Earth is a Category 1 planet. By that I mean it's the lowest category. It's just like environment in which we need to learn the basics. So we came here for a reason. For example, the blacks and the yellows came to Earth because their original planet was cooling down, no longer presenting a livable environment to them. So they had to migrate to a younger planet like Earth. But the Hebrews came accidentally. So they had a accident when they were traveling in their space journey. Their spacecraft malfunctioned. They landed in what's now today's southern Russia, where the climate was cold. So they walked down to the southern area, which is now what's today's like Israel, the Middle East. So they came from a planet of a different category, of a higher category, and I'll just stop here just to give you some kind of incentive to read the book to learn what happened afterwards, and the book is very interesting. It connects all the dots, and there are a lot of specific evidence or specific facts that people can verify. For example, it talks about continental drifts or plate tectonics, the drifting of continents over time on Earth. So when describing what happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, it describes something like at that time in the past, New Zealand was connected to Australia, and then Antarctica had a mild climate like southern Russia nowadays. And then it also mentions something like at that time the UK was connected to the European continent. And then something like there are a lot of specific detail that people can kind of verify archaeologically. And it also describes some of the plants that existed and still exist on Earth in Australia. And there's a detail that mentioned about a grass in Australia called the black boy, nicknamed black boy, and that used to be the food for kangaroos to eat, because when the blacks migrated to Australia, they also took some kangaroos along with them, and the kangaroos only ate black boy grass at that time. And then if you do some research, you're going to find out that nowadays the kangaroos in Australia still eat the young black boy grass. So like I think that this is some of the details that people can research and validate whether the book is a fiction or nonfiction.
I kind of see what you're saying now, because, and this is, I just like to be objective. It's a slippery slope, right? Because there are definitely things that you can sort of confirm to be true. And then because of that, we could potentially say, well, because we know this part's true, that must then mean everything's true. I mean, I'm definitely open to all of it being true, but I'm still, it's a lot, like as we've said, it's sort of a lot to take in. But on what you just said, that really resonates with me because I go out to Death Valley National Park on a regular basis, once a year, twice a year sometimes. And I've had some great opportunities to have private tours in areas of the park that are close to the general public. And in one of those, I think we were a little bit below sea level in the middle of the desert, and we were looking at fossils that were from underneath the ocean millions of years ago. And that just blew my mind because it's hundreds of miles away from the coast right now. And it clearly was at one point underneath the water. So anyway, I can resonate with what you're saying there.
Yeah, it's true. Like when I was reading the book halfway through, I thought it could be like a science fiction or something like that. But the book logically and reasonably explains a lot of the paranormal phenomena on Earth, such as the statues on Easter Island and the Great Pyramid of Egypt, how that came about, and also the Bermuda Triangle. Like, I don't know if you know, but David Paulides, a private investigator, did some research and documented people who just gone vanish in national parks in the U.S. And then this book, towards the beginning, explains like how those people vanished, because there are portals or orbs in the atmosphere on Earth that float in the sky or in different locations. And then when planes or ships or people are close to that portal, they get sucked into this parallel universe. And this is kind of like a phenomenon or something that the ETs use to travel to Earth because they don't want a lot of people to see them. So what they do is that they travel through the parallel universe or the portal to Earth. So this is why when you do a lot of research, you're going to find that the UFOs or UAPs, they tend to appear out of nowhere from a specific location in the sky because they utilize the portal or parallel universe to come in and go out of Earth. And also the author of Thiaoouba Prophecy explains what's inside of a parallel universe, where he saw people like wearing medieval clothes and people who are stuck there. It actually matches the accounts of David Paulides from people who actually reappeared after missing for a long period of time. And not only this, but also it logically explained who built the Great Pyramid of Egypt and how it was built and why it was built logically. It also explains a lot of different things as well, like reincarnation, for example, and also a time machine. If you know about the Philadelphia experiment, you're going to realize that there's a distortion of time and space when they projected certain wavelengths of energy into that location, onto the ship, trying to cloak the ship so that radars will not discover the ship or something like that. So the book is, I think it's a modern book of Enoch, connecting all the dots. And people can see it, can read it as a science fiction, but to me, it is a verifiable account of what really happened to the author.
Now, Samuel, you mentioned the connection between Enoch and Noah. I think there's a 40-year cycle there, and there's a 40-year cycle between the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk project, as you probably know. There's that 40 years cycle, and this number 40 comes up in the Bible quite a bit too.
Yes, that's true. But between the year that Enoch was taken by God and when Noah was told to build an ark, is between 40 to 80 years time. There's a kind of a scope or time frame, not a specific 40 years. But I want to also mention that the book also corrected some of the things in the Bible in a logical manner. Because if you really think about the years that the Hebrews wandered in the desert, 40-year time, it seems to be too long for me. And the book Thiaoouba Prophecy says that it only took them about 3.5 years to reach their destination, not 40 years. And also something like what manna was is actually the food given to the Hebrews by the ETs. It's actually a space food that they eat. It's very compactable and very nutritious. And, and yeah, I would strongly encourage people to read the book. It does mention about the number 9 a lot in the book, though. Well, just what question do you have? I think you have a pending question.
Interesting. Now, the mana can be related to monatomic gold, and Timothy Hogan mentioned that during our discussion too. So, Mike, there are so many subjects here, it's hard to know what direction to go in. And I wanted to make sure that we please put a link to this book at the bottom of this interview, please, Mike.
Oh yeah, we definitely will. We always do that whenever we talk about anything that people can go and access. Um, so Samuel, I'm kind of curious, what got you into this topic in the first place? Did you ever have a sighting or an experience, or how did you, if you're open to talking about it, how did you get into this whole topic?
So I was very curious, and I'm still very curious. I wanted to find out why and everything happens the way it happens. When I was in China back in the 80s, there's a magazine called UFO magazine that tells a story of a physicist being taken by the ETs onto their spacecraft. And they had a journey together. And the physicist was told that even though Einstein laid the 3 fundamental principles of modern physics, he made a small mistake. So that's why we believe that we cannot cross the light barrier. We cannot go at the speed faster than the speed of light. I was thinking if the ETs can come and visit us, they must have advanced knowledge. We can just learn from them. So that's always been in my subconscious mind, to learn from the knowledge received by the ET contactees. So I've been searching for and reading the books written by ET contactees. And a lot of the books were just so vague and so kind of not having a lot of specific facts for me to verify. And I wasn't very interested in the channeled information either. But this book I accidentally found on Amazon back in 2014 was something extremely different. It had so many specific facts that people can really delve into and verify. And it seems that this is a book of everything that for people to read and to take warnings of. And also warns us that if we don't change our ways, we are going to be heading a catastrophe. So this is why I've been so interested in helping people to realize that we are living in a world in which everything can be changed for the better.
Okay. So I have a question, and again, if I'm crossing any boundaries, just let me know. But you are a lawyer, right? And it's a professional career. Is there any pushback that you're finding for talking about this publicly, this topic, or do people just accept it? Like, have you experienced any negativity at all in your professional world?
I mean, in my professional work, I haven't really expanded this kind of knowledge to my colleagues yet, but I'll do that in the future. But I think the real obstacle comes from organized religions, especially the Christian and Islamic religions. And I think, or maybe the Judaism as well. But I think the thing is, I actually had encountered a lot of resistance from fundamental Christians and also evangelicals as well. And I've been thinking about what kind of ways I have to insinuate or to navigate the system, so that more and more people can have an open mind.
Okay, great. I mean, I just want to say I thank you for joining us here, because it takes a lot of courage, first of all, to talk about this topic publicly, and especially when you're a professional person like yourself. You're very courageous, so I admire that, and I thank you for that.
Yes, no worries. I'm doing this because I know when I die, when I pass, I will have a life review process of my own. I will evaluate everything that I did in this lifetime, because I'm part of the Creator, and the Creator is part of us. So this is my judgment. It's also the judgment of the Creator as well, because we are all connected. So during my evaluation process, I will be able to feel the reactions of the people that I had certain actions or did certain things onto, and hopefully it's going to be a good reward. And then, I mean, to me and to others as well. And then I will decide what kind of life or family I'm going to be born into in my next reincarnation. And in the book, I'm so into the book because it logically explains the cycles of reincarnation. It says that the different reincarnations are just like different positions on a wheel. What goes up has to come down. So we have to experience everything in order to learn different spiritual lessons. So in this one lifetime, I may be the richest person in the world. In the next lifetime, I may be a beggar on the street. So Michel Desmarquet actually saw the 80 past lives that he had. Once he was a German miner, like a worker in Germany, and in a mining field. And the other time he was a Japanese goldsmith. He was a water carrier in India, or a queen on a different planet, ruling like a third of the entire planet. So we have to experience everything. And I think the reason for life, the meaning of life, is to experience and to follow the teachings of Christ, so that we can progress spiritually as fast as we can. But we also have our free will. We can be like a mother, or maybe be a bad person in this lifetime. It's just that we are going to regret our actions when we go through this life review process. I want to go to the planet Thiaoouba as soon as possible. So this is why I decide to follow the teachings of Christ. Other people may want to wander more lifetimes on Earth, so they may not want to follow the teachings of spiritual masters. They may do bad things. So this is their free will. So I think we all have our own decisions to make in this lifetime. This is my decision to promote such messages to the people, so that they can decide what to decide when certain things happen.
You actually just reminded me of something. I don't know if it was in the book thus far, or if I maybe another podcast that I heard you talk on. But you had mentioned that when Jesus was born, he wasn't able to do miracles until a certain age. I don't know if it was like 30 or something like that.
30.
Can you, like, what was it that clicked for him or changed that allowed him to do that? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is why it's so important to read the second part of the book.
Okay, I'll get it done.
But let me explain. So what happened was that Jesus, the young Jesus, who went to India, traveled through China, and died in Japan, he never performed any miracles. He couldn't perform miracles. The other entity, the other figure, Christ, was a different person. He remembered the knowledge to perform miracles, because he actually, what happened was that the ETs, in order to have someone who could perform miracles, sent one of their own to Earth. And it entered into a body made by the ETs that resembled the appearance of Jesus, that went to Japan. So at the age of 30, there were two Jesuses, one Jesus, one Christ. The Jesus was traveling through China, and Christ, on the other hand, appeared as documented in the Bible, so that he could perform the miracles, so that his teaching could be believed by the people at that time. So in that 3-year period, when Christ began preaching to the resurrection of Christ, there were actually two Jesuses on earth. So that's what the book talks about, and I find that to be very interesting. And a lot of people won't believe it until they read the book.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a read. And thank you for putting this on my radar because I wasn't aware of this book. So I respect what you're doing and also your motive. So thank you so much.
And also, especially to you, since you're going to read the book, one more incentive is that it specifically mentioned the 4 Catholic Church Council meetings that intentionally distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures.
Yeah.
Very specific information, in fact. Yeah.
Yep, I know what you're referring to there.
Or was that Council of Nicaea, perhaps? Or that's the only one that I.
There's a series of
remembered.
there's a series of councils. That's part of it.
Okay. Well, I mean, as I said before, we're here to get you the truth, and wherever that takes us, it takes us. Stuart or Samuel, anything that you guys want to touch upon or toss out there that we haven't talked about yet?
One interesting fact, when Michel, the author, was on the planet, he saw the ETs levitating in front of him. He wanted to learn how to levitate. And they just smiled at him and didn't respond. And I actually found a video on YouTube. If you search Dan White, Nepali monk levitation, you're going to find this magician, Dan White, visiting Nepal and documenting a Nepali monk that levitated in front of him. And then, there are still people who can levitate. And then I did some research and I find out that there have been people in the past in history that levitated, Catholic priests specifically, and certain monks as well. What you do is that if you really want to spiritually practice some of the abilities that they're able to do, then you should go into the state of meditation and prayer as well, to activate your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is so powerful that you can actually realize a lot of things that you would think is impossible. This is the power of mind that talked in the Bible or mentioned in the Bible. It's talking about the subconscious mind. What you do is that you should follow what's in the Bible. The way to pray is that you have to be on your own, or maybe have a like-minded people, because 3 is better than 1, and with a candle, which is more effective. And then you meditate or pray certain things that you want to happen. And then if what you're praying for is good for your spiritual development, then it will definitely happen. And you can give it a try because it works for a lot of people. And I think that's the trick, that's a secret that a lot of the people don't necessarily realize, but it's known to a lot of the members of secret societies. And for example, the top members of I would say the Masonic Center, or the Masonic organization, and the Illuminati. So I think if people read this book and the other book, 334 Lies, people are going to see the 2 exact opposite sides of the world. One is like a paradise. The other is like the devil, 666, the devil that exists in the world. So I think to empower yourself with the knowledge, the right knowledge, is the key to making the right decisions in the future.
Wow.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I'd like to ask you if our audience are interested in getting in touch with you, is that possible? Is there a way they can contact you?
Yes, they can find me on Facebook or just by searching my name on Google. I'm also on X, but I would strongly encourage people to read the book before reach out to me, because all the things that I mentioned are just maybe like 5% of what's written in the book, and you can definitely get a lot more by reading it and empowering yourself, making the right decisions, and knowing how this world is run.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Samuel. I really do appreciate your time and sharing this with us, and I respect your courage to do this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Much love to you, sir.
All right, Reverend Stu. I don't know what to say.
Wow. Okay. We got into a lot of topics there, and some of them are kind of sensitive, so I was trying to be careful. I just found that man had a wealth of information. So after he'd speak, I found I'd have about 5 different questions in my head. And I noticed you picked up on some of the same sort of threads, which I was very pleased about. And I'm 100% inspired to read this book. I'm going to read it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm about halfway through right now. I'm definitely going to finish it up, and it's really, really, really interesting stuff, to say the least. But like Samuel said, it's not for the faint of heart. And when I don't know, I always sort of believe that this is going to sound weird, but when you are, as a person, when you're ready for something, is when it will appear to you, or you'll like for example, sometimes there's books I'll purchase and there won't be till 6 or 8 months later that I actually pick them up. Or in this case, this book just presented itself into my experience. And I do believe the universe works in mysterious ways like that.
You know what I think's really sweet about this? Like, the gentleman's a lawyer, and people can sometimes have a negative view of lawyers, but he's a very sincere, beautiful person, and he's trying to share what he's learnt with us. So, and he's not even here to advertise his own book, Mike. He's talking about someone else's book. So I'm super impressed.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the message of it, or the story behind it, however you want to look at it, the information, right? And that's why we're here. We've been here from the start. And in a way, like he talked about, really, I mean, go to any information on this channel, and it's about belief systems, and potentially shattering your belief system is why we're here. But to do it in a nicer way, I guess.
Now, you want to know another interesting thing for me? This account is from here in Australia. Now, I've been following these topics for one hell of a long time, and now there's another thing from my own country that I wasn't aware of. So there's another aspect too. Just how much information there is on this topic out there over so many years, it's almost overwhelming.
Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. I mean, like we've talked about in the intro, a couple of other books that are out of print that were, it is fascinating. The more you look, the more you find.
All right, I got some homework to do after this episode.
Indeed. And you know what, Stuart? I think we should officially call this season 2. I feel like this is a great bookend to the season 1 ending point, as it were, for our season 2. And I can't think of a better way to do that, quite frankly.
This has worked out just as it's meant to be. So that's fantastic. I agree with you there, Mike. Another amazing season. Looking forward to another incredible one in 2026.
Exactly. So depending on when you're listening to this, we might be extended hiatus here, but we'll be back at some point soon. And feel free to please reach out to us if you would like to share in this conversation. Perhaps you have a story or information or research you want to present, especially if you want to do it for the first time. I want to really get into bringing newer people into this discussion from all over the world. And we truly mean that. We do whatever we can to accommodate the scheduling based on your time zone, as it were.
You know what I like about that, Mike? That was our original intention. We're really achieving what we set out to do here. So you're absolutely welcome to appear. So please do approach us, make contact with us, and we'll see what we can organize.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us on this journey, and please do share us with all of your friends and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification depending on where you're at. And if you haven't heard our other conversations, we have, I don't even know how many hours, man. There's a lot of bingeable conversations to be had here.
Fantastic. As always, much love to you. Take care.
See you next time.